Welcome to Using LinkedIn to Get a Job. I'm Bruce Hurwitz, President and CEO of Hurwitz Strategic Staffing. I hope you will take the time to watch all 6 parts of this series. It's my goal to explain to you in as much detail as possible how to utilize LinkedIn as part of an effective job search. Most importantly for me is that at the end of the series, you will have a realistic expectation for what you can expect out of this vital social media platform for anyone conducting a job search. Now, why should you care about LinkedIn? Well, frankly, if 87 to 90% of Inc. 500 companies utilize LinkedIn, you have to. It's really as simple as that. What will we be covering in this series? LinkedIn irregularities and myths, self-promotion, the profile, building a network, job postings, and interview research. So let's get started. LinkedIn irregularities and myths. There are a lot of anomalies on LinkedIn. So-called experts usually only have a few hundred or a few thousand first-degree connections. And the number of first-degree connections that someone has on LinkedIn pretty much determines the nature of their use of the system. Since I have 30,000 first-degree connections, which is the maximum you can have on a single account, I have to deal with a lot of issues that someone with only a few hundred or a few thousand have to. So you will get the benefit, if I may be allowed to be flippant, of my aggravation. Because the anomalies are problematic and you have to learn how to move around them. And I've done that. There are a lot of workarounds, but don't get me wrong. No site is perfect. LinkedIn isn't perfect, but it is by far the best. Now let me give you a simple example. First-degree connections. How many do I have? On the left is a partial screenshot from my profile, or rather from the profile section of my homepage. When I go to see what my rank is, it tells me I'm number 606 out of 29,401. A few seconds later, I went to the connections section of the homepage. And there it shows that I have 29,997 first-degree connections. That's the correct answer. But there's a difference of 600. LinkedIn numbers are not reliable. But this brings up an important issue. Should you do what I do? Accept invitations from everyone? Or should you be more particular? Well, with 30,000 first-degree connections, once and only once did I get that error message at the bottom of the screen. There was someone whose profile I could not see because we weren't connected in any way. Obviously not a first-degree connection, but also not a second degree or a third degree. We weren't even members of the same group. Now, if that happened to me once with 30,000, imagine how many times it's going to happen to you with a few hundred or a few thousand. Let me tell you one story. In addition to being a career counselor, I am also an executive recruiter. I had a client in Columbus, Ohio, who hired me to find an economist for them. The normal way would have been for me to pick up the phone or send emails to their competitors, to universities, looking for an economist. I decided to do something different. This was a number of years ago, and at the time you could very simply send a message to 50 first-degree connections on LinkedIn. You can't do that anymore, which is a pity, but one good thing about LinkedIn is they are always updating. Sometimes you agree with the update, sometimes you disagree. That's life. It's not that important. So I sent, and I remember the number, 48. I sent to my 48 connections in Columbus, Ohio, a message saying that I was looking for an economist. I found an economist. One of my first-degree connections introduced me to the husband of her client. That first-degree connection was a very nice lady who owned a beauty parlor. Never in a million years would I have contacted beauty parlors in Columbus, Ohio to find an economist. But that's what happened on LinkedIn. So if I had rejected people because of their profession, because of their industry, I would have lost out on serving my client. So keep that in mind when you reject someone. So-called LinkedIn experts will tell you that they will get you to the top of a search on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not like Google. The search results, if you're in the same city, two different people on Google in the same location doing the same search will pretty much get the same results. That's not the case with LinkedIn. Everyone's search is based on their first-degree connections. So if you do a search, executive recruiter, Greater New York, first-degree connections, and we are first-degree connections, I may not come up as I do here as number one. As a matter of fact, if I remove Greater New York City and remove first-degree connections and do it for everyone, sometimes I come up on the first page, sometimes I don't. I manipulated this by doing Greater New York City and first-degree connections so that I would be at the top. Don't trust someone who says to you they will get you to the top of search results. They can't guarantee that. Everyone's search results are different. The same is true for views. This shows that at the time that I took this screenshot, I was in the top 2% of my 29,312 first-degree connections. I was actually number 558, but as I showed you before, that number is wrong because I have 30,000. But that doesn't matter for present purposes. What experts tell you, and there is truth to this, but there are also anomalies, and I'm now going to show you an anomaly. What the experts will say is the more details you have in your profile, the better, and that is true, and we'll get into that in a future session when we're focused on the profile. But for right now, look at the lady who is number one out of my 29,312 first-degree connections, meaning her profile gets viewed more than anybody else's. Doesn't mean it comes up at the top of search results. It's views. And look carefully at her photo. Now look at the details on her profile. And I promise, the only things that I removed were her name, the place where she works, her location, and her industry. So you see that there's nothing there. There's only the word owner and the name of her company under experience. She has a few interests. There's a space for me to write a recommendation if I wanted to, and we'll be discussing recommendations later. connections, and groups. And that's it. There's no substance at all to this profile. Yet she's number one and has been for a very long time. It's an anomaly. It's all because of her photo. Here's something else. LinkedIn Pulse. We'll be discussing LinkedIn Pulse in great detail. If you're not acquainted, that is LinkedIn's blog. I wrote a post, The Difference Between Racists and Bigots. I was going to remove it because only 12 people apparently had read it. But then when I logged on to the system on my homepage, I got a message that there were 341 views of my update on the difference between racists and bigots. So I honestly don't know if 12 people read it or 341 people read it. But I decided to leave it up anyways. I think it's a good post, even if others aren't interested in it. But again, be wary of LinkedIn numbers. LinkedIn tried something, and it was nice, but it's been spoiled. It's called endorsements and recommendations. You can place on your profile up to 50 skills, and people can endorse you. And all these nice people have endorsed me for my 50 skills. I have thousands of endorsements, and I guarantee you that only a handful actually know me. These mean nothing. It's like collecting badges in a video game. Nothing more, nothing less. I don't take them seriously. I don't think anybody will take them seriously. There is an expectation, though, I'll admit it, that when you look at someone's profile, they should at least have enough to fill the first page. But the trouble begins with recommendations. When someone writes a recommendation, they're writing a recommendation. They're actually claiming to know you and praising you. And according to the attorneys who I have spoken with, and they all say the same thing, when a recommendation is placed on a profile, the profile becomes an advertisement. And that brings in the Federal Trade Commission, the SEC, or the Bar Association, depending on your industry and profession. If the recommendation is fraudulent, you could be fined, you could be prosecuted, you could be in a lot of trouble. A week does not go by when someone does not write, send me a message through LinkedIn saying, if you write a recommendation for me, I'll write one for you. Or if you endorse me, I'll endorse you. I never do that. As a matter of fact, I remove these people from my network because they're unethical. Your reaction, of course, is, well, Bruce, come on, be serious. If I have a fraudulent recommendation on my profile, the FTC is not going to prosecute me. Well, think about, I believe she was a 12-year-old girl who had downloaded and shared music. She was sued by the recording company and won. One day, the FTC, the SEC, or the Bar Association, and if I had to bet, it would probably be the Bar Association, will decide to make an example out of someone. I hope you won't be that example. So, during this session, I hope I've been able to highlight for you some of the key anomalies in LinkedIn, which will help you to determine whether or not someone who claims to be an expert in LinkedIn actually is. And if you go to my posts, and I'll show you how in an upcoming session, you'll find one on why you should never hire someone to write a profile for you on LinkedIn. It's a total waste of money. Do it yourself. It's very simple. And you determine what's best for you. Whether or not you want to have everyone and anyone as part of your LinkedIn network, or you want to be more particular. No right or wrong answer. You decide. Thank you very much for watching, and please feel free to contact me if you have any questions, but watch all 6 episodes. Thank you.